Hello and welcome to the agenda. Phil Morehouse is unfortunately incapacitated today. He's not feeling so well. He's not feeling so good. So we've got Andrew Abrahamson, or AB, my mate from Liverpool, who's not necessarily a Labour supporter, to come and talk about the news this week. How you doing, AB?
I'm very good, thank you. Very nice of you to invite me onto here. Long time follower, watcher.
It looks you've jumped from the comment section to the actually being on the show.
So, I know it's what we all dream of. Everyone in the comments. It could be you in the comments if you're persistent and annoying enough.
Absolutely. Well, so we've got Master Templar, we've got Duke Vengeance in the comments, we've got Katrina there, we've got 91 Leeds and Sam and Dave W. And Graham Haller saying howdy ho. So basically, we've had another cluster F of a week with the Tories, and the big thing has been about obviously concrete in schools, and this is something that they've known about for ages. But I don't know, did you watch Prime Minister's Questions? Are you sad enough to watch Prime Minister's Questions?
Not this week, no. I was very tempted to. My blood pressure was just a little bit too high this week.
Oh mate, it would have driven you mad. I was watching it, and like the whole thing about Prime Minister's Questions on Labour Social is I'm not supposed to swear, and I couldn't help it. It was just because he was just lying. He was just standing up in front of Parliament. And since Johnson, they know they can get away with this now. They know they can just lie, and nothing happens.
I know. It's absolutely. Yeah, this sort of Trumpian fake news, just throw enough rubbish at anything, and they just watches off. It's insane. Are you good? Sorry.
I was going to say, you've got family over in the States, haven't you? They must be going crazy right now with all the stuff with Trump.
Yeah, I feel very sorry for them. I mean, so back in 2016, I went to visit. So all my family on my dad's side are out sort of Philly area. And I went out to visit in 2016 with the idea of maybe kind of moving across, possibly, or at least sort of doing half and half of my time. And while I was out there was the Brexit vote. And then Trump came along, or the other way around.
Trump
afterwards. Fever dream. But I was just like, no.
Have you got an American passport?
Yeah, I used to have the two best passports in the world, and
now you got two of the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. I always just think, well, if things go bad here, I can go to America. Oh, right, yeah.
So
to find some Irish ancestry somehow or another.
But it is quite sort of terrifying, and we'll talk about Elon Musk in a moment as well. The way that these people, like Trump, like Johnson, like Musk, are put on a pedestal, usually because they're rich. That's the only redeeming quality they've got. They're rich, and they don't seem quite as out of touch as, I don't know, Rees-Mogg, which is a very low bar. And they're just hero worshipped, and they can do no wrong. Now, it's come out yesterday that Elon Musk actually turned off the satellites, or he refused to turn them on. There's a bit of argy-bargy about what he actually did, but when there was a Ukrainian military operation which would have taken out, import, a lot of Russian warships, which have since fired missiles at Ukrainian cities that have killed children. And Elon Musk, as an unelected Bond villain, that's no better way to describe him, has just gone, no, I'm going to turn these off. So the drones just did nothing because they didn't have the GPS to get to their targets. And it could have saved lives.
I mean, it is crazy. I mean, but at the same time, so his reasoning for that was, this would, I'm worried this would start a nuclear war. And, there are several times he wanted to sort of pull out because he was concerned that the actions of Ukraine could cause Russia to then, to escalate everything into a much bigger conflict. But I don't know. I mean, it's like, if you're going to be at the cool hero riding the white knight and saying, yes, I'm going to...
Riding the white knight?
Yeah, that's what he does.
The white knight loved it.
It's a PG show. Sorry. I'll change that. I know, but I mean, if he wants to be the hero, then, be that, take responsibility for what you're doing. Like if you want to, he's a private individual. This is a private company. If he doesn't want to be associated with the war, then that is actually his right. But then the fact that, I mean, we don't know. Did he give them warning? Did he say, if you go ahead with this, I'll turn it off? We don't know. But it shouldn't be in a situation where he's got this sort of power. I mean, and that comes from well before, the fact that a large communication system is in the hands of a single individual.
Yes,
is the scary thing. I mean, that's the thing. And
but this is the end game, isn't it, of privatization? It's the end game of the libertarians who want private individuals, sovereign individuals. There was a book by Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad, I think, called The Sovereign Individual, along with Blood on the Streets, How to Make Money Out of a Crisis. And the idea being that, these unelected oligarchs who, get power because they're rich, get to make these kind of decisions with no oversight. You can't unelect them. You can't kick them out of office. We've got people in the chat here. We've got Katrina saying the US government clearly needs to nationalize Starlink. I don't disagree with that. And we're saying, should a private company even be getting involved? I do not believe they should. And Jez is saying Elon Musk doing the work of helping out a brutal authoritarian regime. What a surprise. And I'm shocked that he hasn't been arrested for this. Like, surely, if it was you or me, and we sabotaged a NATO ally, not necessarily a member of NATO, but a NATO ally's attempts to protect its own people from an aggressor that was actively shelling towns and villages and cities in their country. I mean, that would be it. This blows anything that Edward Snowden did, anything that what's the name of the WikiLeaks guy? Julian Assange. Anything that Chelsea Manning did, it blows all that out the water.
Well, it doesn't blow anything out the water. That's the problem.
Well, yeah. we were hoping that would happen. But also, someone made the point that it was done at night when the boats are in dock. These warships are in dock, so there would have been minimal crew on board. So if it's out on the water, obviously you've got hundreds of crew people on the ship. If it's at sea, but if it's in dock, it doesn't necessarily. So if you want to minimize human casualties, this was the best way of doing it. And yet Elon Musk pulled the plug on it.
But I mean, I find it's such a thin line. Like, I promise you, I'm not just blindly defending Elon Musk. There are many reasons I dislike him as a person. But imagine a situation where you decide that you've got a van, right, and you're going to drive it down to Ukraine to help defend Ukraine, and you've made this decision. It's your van. You're going to take it and you're going to do supplies, and then you find out that actually no, what we want you to do is use your van to take the attack into Russia. You're going to deliver troops that are going to attack something in Russia, changing what you have agreed to do, which is defend Ukraine and turn it into an offensive. You, as a private citizen, who's not even selling a service, who has donated a service, you must have a right to say, well, actually, I'm not going to follow these orders. I don't want to be.
But you shouldn't be in that situation in the first place.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they should. A private individual shouldn't have that much control. Absolutely. No. But I don't think him necessarily saying no to something.
Well, it was actively turning the satellites off.
Yeah,
the satellites were on. They were using them. He got wind that this operation was happening, and he ordered them off. And I think that's a war crime. I mean, it's like this. If you don't want to be put in these kinds of situations, don't put yourself in these kind of situations.
Yeah, well, I mean, he shouldn't be in that situation. That's kind of what I was saying. But I don't think if you were in that situation and you're suddenly worried about how far your help would be, how far you helping would take things to the point where you're worried that you're crossing a line
Yeah.
This is a service you've donated, you haven't sold, you haven't contracted. I mean,
Well, it's there anyway. I mean, it's a net around the world. This is low what they call low orbit satellites.
Yeah, but then he gave them all, like, he gave Ukraine a lot of, I don't know, passwords for free. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works,
effectively.
he gave free access to it.
Yeah, giving them free access to them at the start of the war. But Elon Musk seems to have had some kind of. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm demeaning mental health problems here, but he seems to have had some kind of mental break in the last couple of years where he has become someone who I guess wanted to be loved, and now he's just someone who wants to be feared. I guess, I don't know, but he has gone so down the route of that libertarian ideal of he'll never see the position that he's risen to in life as a product of dumb luck, which is what it is. Instead, he thinks that he is the greatest person who's ever lived, and every decision he makes is fantastic. And what he's done to Twitter, I mean, I read today that there was a court filing that was made against him because he's reduced the worth of Twitter so much. And in the court filings, it said he's reduced it by something like, 75%. And his response was, no, it's more like 90. And you're kind of like, what's your end game here? What are you trying to do? Captain Bart Roberts is recommending Thunderfoot with O's and with zeros instead of O's as a great resource. He's a YouTuber who's well worth following. Thunderfoot has hated Elon Musk and been making like diss videos against Elon Musk for over a decade now, and finally he's like, I told you so.
All this time.
Saying this all this time.
I am Cassandra.
Yeah.
I mean, it is that sort of classic. I think there's definitely that classic surround yourself with yes people, and and not if you block any criticism. And I think
George Lucas syndrome. George Lucas syndrome. That's how he made Star Wars Episode 1. Hey, do you know what this film really needs? This film about Jedis. It needs a jive-talking amphibian who steps in poop. And everyone's looking at each other going...
That theory that Jar Jar Binks was the main Sith, I think it's one of my favorite things. And the fact that George Lucas just saw the response to Jar Jar and chickened out, I still think that makes the most sense, and I wish that happened. Just imagine that. But
well, I mean, the way that a lot of the authoritarianists in the world operate, they do use useful idiots, and that's what Jar Jar was for the Empire, wasn't he? He was a useful idiot. And you see this now with Trump and the people he's been indicted with, and they're just not with it. They're just they're not sending their best.
No, well, but I mean, and the other thing with Elon is like there is this sort of thing, and the left is very critical, and I think there is many reasons. As someone who is left and is someone who is very critical, we do look for perfection in people more than potentially we should. Whereas the far right certainly are much more sort of welcoming and dismissive. I mean, absolutely, completely dismissive.
So long as you're not trans.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, but so you have Elon trying to do good, and he's going, I'm doing all this great stuff, and then people criticizing him, probably quite fairly, because he's doing weird stuff with it. And it's not quite turning out what he thinks he's doing. Issues and you remember when he dived in with the trapped cave.
Yeah, and he called the guy like a paedophile, and it was like, what?
Exactly.
And then he got away with it.
He just jumped into this thing and went, okay, I can sort this, and everyone's like, no, and stop this, stop getting in the way. Whereas, if the right sort of have really welcomed him and will not put up with any harm, so of course you're going to be sort of embraced by this kind of world, and I can see why he would fall into that, and why he would embrace that. And the way to embrace that is to sort of, what was it? What did he tweeted at the start of June, start of Pride Month? He retweeted the gender critical documentary, that horrible thing on Netflix, and he sort of retweeted it with saying like, "Oh, this is important" or something on the start of Pride Day, because obviously, you need to sort of kick down at key points. Yes. And of course, all his fan base are going to go, "Woo, yeah, great! He's the alpha. What an alpha dude."
I mean, people who take pride in their straightness is just that's the default setting. Do you know what I mean? It's like someone going, "Oh, I want to show you this new thing I've got," and it's all like on the default settings. And they're like, "Look at this wallpaper I've got on my phone." It's like, or even someone showing you a picture frame. And the picture in the picture frame is the one that you get when you buy the picture frame. And they're like, "Look at this." And you're like, I don't know what you're so proud of here. You've not done anything. It's just, you literally, it's who, and you know what? You can bring that across from sexuality to nationalism, to believing that you're better because you come from a certain point of longitude and latitude, which is superior to some other point of longitude and latitude, when it's just dumb luck. It's just dumb luck. I'm just going to say in the chat, Jess Hunt put in a great comment a few minutes ago. He's gradually turning into the villain of the Kingsman, but with way more divorced dad energy. Which I love.
I look forward to him kidnapping Elton John. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, and a weird obsession with the capital letter X. Yeah.
Yeah, I read a really long but interesting thread about that a while back, and apparently, he's been wanting to he wanted X for years, like years and years ago, like before PayPal. He nearly didn't create PayPal because he was trying to create
No, he bought PayPal. He became a CEO of PayPal, and he wants to change the name to X.
Because he wanted it to be a big financial center, which everyone said is not going to work now. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and also PayPal was already
see in the
established.
Comments, someone say my name. Gary said Andrew Abrahamson. I got that much. I only know the name. Hi, I'm Andrew Abrahamson, or Andrew AB. I'm a photographer in Liverpool, and that's pretty much all I have to say about who I am.
We did an episode of Would They Lie to You about the Tories, didn't we? I haven't put that online yet.
Oh, right. Is that not
kick up the arse? I'll put that on. I've also got an episode of Pubcast that I did with Phil a couple of months ago. I still haven't put that. Do you know why it is? It's because it requires editing, and I just don't have time to edit. That's why I do all like the live shows, and when I'm doing my pre-records, I usually do them as live. So I had one last week where I had like 13 clips of Nadine Dorries being a dick. And I literally had to press my mouse, for each of them as I was doing it live. So, it was all done in one take. Fun facts.
Facts.
Admiral Awesome, any relation, maybe? Admiral Awesome has said, £5 super chat, thank you so much. Anyone see my keys? Have you looked down the back of the couch?
That's my first place to look. I always look behind your couch when I've lost my keys.
Yeah. Where it says down the back of the sofa. Try the front door. Sometimes you accidentally leave them in the front door, like for no reason. Sometimes you might have a hole in your coat or your pocket or something, and it goes into
the lining.
Coat. Yeah, it's always a nightmare. But I hope you get your keys back, Admiral. We need them. We need the keys. So just to move on to a different topic. First of all, we didn't really talk about this last week when I was chatting with Phil. But the RSPB put out a tweet. Did you see this?
Okay.
They put out a tweet calling the government liars, and then they were forced to retract. They were forced by the blob, which is the government and the people who enable them to retract this. Now I've got a plan. Have you ever seen the movie The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock?
Yes.
I reckon there must be a way of like using some kind of mind control, or like maybe like a sound or something like a sonic sound that makes birds attack Tories. Because wouldn't that be the best? Wouldn't that be the best? Like the RSPB like pull out this big machine and they press a button and it goes beep, 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 and all the birds just start attacking the Tories.
I
And they're
guess
like, don't mess with the RSPB, and they get their eyes pecked out and stuff. Brilliant.
well, the way to do it would be just start putting loads of birdseed down on blue material, like constantly. If you see anything blue, just put some birdseed on. Just everyone do this. And then anytime anyone's out with a blue rosetta or a sign, it's just that's it. The birds will all flood in. It wouldn't take us that long, a few months. We could have every bird in the UK trained to try and get food off anything blue.
I was thinking about this because orcas have been attacking super yachts, and now there's been a case of sharks attacking an inflatable yacht thing. So the sea is fighting back because the sea's had enough of our shit. So yeah, we need the birds on. Some of the other things that have happened this week in Britain, we've had the Tory disaster that is the concrete in schools and hospitals and other public buildings, which we've known about is a problem for a very, very long time, and they're pretending that they only found out about it last week, which is an outright lie. Did you hear about the wind farm situation?
No. So what's changed with that?
Okay, so in 2015, Cameron, the trotter man, the pig effer, he brought in basically a ban, effectively a ban on onshore wind farms. So if one person put in a complaint when they were putting in planning permission for a wind farm, for just one turbine, the wind farm wouldn't go ahead. And because there are NIMBYs everywhere, there was just no chance of anyone investing any money when it could be derailed by literally one person. That was backheeled this week, quietly by the Tories, because they obviously don't want their, oil donors to know. But at the same time, they were supposed to have the annual auction of fields in the North Sea or the coast around the UK for another set of wind farms, offshore wind farms, and nobody applied. They didn't have a single application because the government's guarantee of a set price is below inflation, and it's a lot less than what they're offering for coal-fired or gas-fired plants. Gas-fired electricity get much more of a buffer if because of price fluctuations than you do if you're creating sustainable energy that is created in Britain or off the coast of Britain, and not having to rely on Qatar for the gas to burn to make electricity, which is what we do in a lot of places now. So
sorry, I don't know a huge amount about this sort of side of things. Like, is that something that the government, like, literally it's just their policy on the buffer? They could provide more support.
Yes. But the companies that make the wind turbines have said, or construct the wind turbines, have said to them, we need this guarantee that we will get X amount of money. The minimum we will get, depending on price fluctuations, we need that to be guaranteed, or it's not worth our while to make a wind farm. And the government's ambitious target for 2030 was to have enough wind power by 2030 to power every home in the country. And we're nowhere near that at the moment because the Tories are just... But meanwhile, they're giving out over 100 licenses for oil and gas extraction in the North Sea. There was no shortage of people wanting that. Surprisingly, heavily subsidized by people. And again, it's just it just shows the absolute incompetence of this government. They just can't do anything right. It's kind of, it's heartbreaking that they've been in charge of the country for so long.
I mean, I know I'm not by any means original or the first person to say this, but I really feels like the tenants about to be evicted from the house, ripping the copper from the walls, like literally. It's like them pooing in the kitchen and getting every last bit of lead from the roof and everything else, like just absolutely stripping the place before they know they're going to be forced out.
You're absolutely right. It does really feel like that. Like this is the government is a dead government walking, and they're just like, oh, what can we get out the
Get
place
away.
on the way out?
How can we mess it up more so that when Labour get in, they're gonna have to fix all of this, you know? Yeah, I feel like we've had our debates many times about here, Starmer, and all the rest. I have definitely turned the corner and been like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll stop being an idiot. I'm, you know, I'm backing him like anything, absolutely anything better at the moment.
Anything.
But anything, like I would be better and I would be terrible.
I don't think you'd be terrible, AB, but yeah, anyone would be
Ineffectual,
better.
ineffectual, indecisive, all the rest. But yeah, I feel so sorry for the job that they've got ahead of. Like
Labour.
they are in, they're gonna. Yeah, they've got so much to do and so little time to do it, and so much criticism.
And they're going to get all the blame for the economy continuing to go down. Don't forget, when Labour got in 1997, there was a few years where our economy was still in the doldrums. It was only after about 3 years that it really started taking off. So it was really the 7 years between 2000 and 2007 when our economy just doubled overnight. 7 years. It doubled rather quickly. And we haven't got back to the point that we were at in 2007 in terms of GDP yet. This is 16 years ago.
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, something you said today, in fact, this morning, I'm sure you've probably said it before, but it's the first time I've probably heard it, but was you sort of saying, 4 year, first term, do what they can, little things, maybe not big changes, but to try and plug some leaks, and then hopefully the second term is when you can actually make some changes. And
go hard.
I think that's right. I think that's all that can be done.
The impression I got at the conference, the Labour Party conference last year, is there is so much pardon me, groundswell of support for PR. I can't see them putting it into this manifesto because they don't want to fight this election on PR. But the next one, absolutely. So another thing that happened this week, which I talked about a lot this morning, is the re-entry into Horizon, this £85 billion science collaboration across Europe. And it's been knocked for 6 by Britain pulling out for 2 years because of Tory ideology. But I really do see this as the beginning of the road back. And what was interesting about what Starmer's reaction was to this, he welcomed it, and then he said they would look at Euratom, which is about sharing radioactive isotopes and things like that, and making sure that we're safe when it comes to atomic energy. Which I'd rather not have atomic energy, just all things being equal. But at the moment, I'm feeling like we've got to do something fast, because every single day there's a new hurricane, there's a new wildfire, there's a new load of flooding, there's a new superlative is hit somewhere in the world to do with awful weather going on, and I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. Like every day waking up and going, "Oh God, that's awful."
No, absolutely. I mean, and it's one of those things where we can already see it. It's just going to be exponentially bad, and it's going to, so we just need to break that. And yeah, I mean, nuclear energy has changed massively from the thing that the Green Party protested in the 70s, 80s. It is safer and it is better. I would rather we don't have it, but if we, I
agree. It's all we've got at the moment.
If we have to, then it is better than oil and gas. And Captain Bart Roberts says there's a problem with battery storage in land. I mean, there are solutions to batteries, but it needs to be properly invested in and all the rest. But until that is sorted, there is some issues with that thing.
The thing is with the battery situation, I understand it's a problem with cars and things like that, but when it comes to energy storage, batteries aren't necessarily the best solution, especially when you have a hilly country like the UK, where you can pump water up the hill when you've got power, and then the water comes back down the hill by gravity, and you use that to turn turbines. So you've got hydroelectric power being generated from solar power, from wind power, but when it's needed. So we have that reservoir of power that can always be drawn on at times when we need more power. But because things are happening all at the same time now, like there's a lot more electric vehicles now. And one of the things that electric vehicles are doing is they are charging overnight. So you're having this quite large drain on the grid at nighttime hours when usually, that's off peak, hardly anyone was using it. And if you have a night, obviously there's no sunshine for the solar panels, but also if there's no wind, that could be a huge problem for the grid and being able to shift power around, which is why working with Europe on things like power, because I think we've got like 2 or 3 connectors with the continental Europe to help with the keep the electricity flow, keep the grid all at a certain level. But the steps that we could have taken to ensure a robust grid that can withstand the plummeting it's going to take when everyone has an electric car in 10 years' time, has been the chance to do something with that has been lost by the Tories because they sold off our grid. Our grid was privatized, and now it's owned by a consortium from Qatar and China. Our electrical grid.
Nationalism is for other countries, not for us.
David Farrow in the chat there has just been. I was going to mention vapes actually. Enough single-use vapes are being chucked out to provide battery material for 5,000 cars a year. I honestly ban single-use vapes. Do it tomorrow. And this is a thing that actually you could get the Tories and Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens to all agree on that these things should be bloody banned. There's no reason for them at all. And it's getting kids hooked onto nicotine.
We were so close. We were so close to freeing ourselves from nicotine. It would have been gone by the end of this generation, like cigarettes.
Yeah.
And then vapes came along.
Yeah.
I gave up smoking about 6 months before vapes became a thing, really. And it's quite a few years ago. I'm so glad. If I hadn't given up when I did, I don't think I ever could have given up, because I would have just gone to vapes and then gone, oh, it's much healthier. And then anytime I'm out and about and my vape runs out or something, I can't get another one, I'll just pour a cigarette and have a cigarette and be back to smoking. Just so grateful I got out. But you're seeing all these cases now. Popcorn, this incurable. I don't think it's curable, but this horrible condition in your lungs, which was originally called popcorn lung because it was from the chemicals from microwave popcorn from people who worked in factories making that. Just absolutely messes up the lungs, and people who have been vaping are getting this. Everyone sort of said, oh, it must be less harmful than smoking. It's like, well, it's not. I mean, it's different, but it is still really, really bad for you. And let alone single use and all the rest, all the pollution from that.
But if the Tories wanted a quick win, they could just do that. This is one of those things where you just like, there's an open goal there for the Tories to win back, I don't know, a little bit of voting sympathy, but they just seem to be doubling down on pissing everybody off. They're like, oh, well, we've now annoyed everyone who's got, a mortgage. We're annoyed anyone who's renting. We upset all the older people by killing them during the pandemic. And now they're like, oh, are there any parents in the house? Any parents? Kids go to state school? Oh, well, do you know what? The good news is most schools unaffected. Most schools unaffected. I love the parodies that came out after that.
Yeah.
Labour put out one saying most beachgoers unaffected by killer shark, and there was one that Chris Barker put out, which was most planets unaffected by Death Star blowing up the output. Most planets unaffected. But yeah, it's just one thing after another, and this is the first week back after summer holidays. It's like, could you just give us a little time to adjust?
I haven't read the thread this week. What's his name? The guy who does. He's based in Chester. He does a week in Tory.
Yeah,
What's it?
Rush
Do you know his
Jones.
name?
Rush Jones. Rush
Yeah.
Jones.
Oh God, I can't wait
Catherine's
to
got
read
his
that.
book. Catherine's got his book. A Decade in Tory. It's like this thick, and she's getting through it. And he's written one now. If you want to get your name in the back of it, it's called Four Chancellors and a Funeral, and it's about all the events of last year. And if you go on Unbound, you can actually get yourself either a signed copy or just a normal copy, but you can get your name in the back.
Okay,
So
cool. Thank you.
I've actually done that for Catherine. So her name's going to be in the back of his new book.
Oh,
I hope. Bit of a surprise
yeah.
for her.
Well,
Hope she's
I
not
mean,
watching. Hi, Cat.
uh, yeah, no, I'd love to support him. Like, get. I don't know if it's pleasure out of reading his threads. It's the wrong thing. I mean, it's that very much you literally have to laugh.
Yeah,
You have
or
to
you'll
laugh.
cry.
You just, I mean, it's not even cry. It's just give up. Like literally, just give up because it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, I haven't read this week's. I'll have to check it out afterwards.
I'm gonna put a link in the chat there. That's the Unbound link. If you go there, he's got mugs as well. You can get mugs with some of his. Oh, it's making me want to sign in. I don't want to sign in. Go away. Don't make. Oh man, what's it doing? Oh, this is killing me. It's making me put in passwords and things. You think you're gonna do something quietly? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got mugs. He's got mugs, right? And on one side is a picture of the politician. On the back, he's written something, and he's got Boris Johnson, shit Aslan. He's got Rishi Sunak, Thunderbird 0.5. He's got Liz Truss, not so much as a prime minister as a punctuation mark, and he's got Jacob Rees-Mogg, the harrowing result of a bout of hate sex between a Dalek and a pendulum. Sorry. Oh my god. I might have to knock my camera off while I blow my nose now. Yeah, well worth a watch. I swear. I read actually. If you don't subscribe to Decade in Tory, you really should. Sorry to Rush Jones. It's Rush in Cheshire is his handle, and he's moved off Twitter now, and he's just on Threads, I think. So
Right.
on
Okay,
Threads.
that's probably why I've seen it.
Are you on Threads yet?
I am. I think I've read it twice. I haven't really used it at all. It's sort of there, and I occasionally get a notification about it. Like the one thing that I really did not need in my life was more social media. Like another one.
Another one.
Another one.
Another one.
Like so my Instagram is photography. So I have two Instagram accounts. I've got Andrew AB Photography. Small plug there. That's for my sort of theatre-y kind of photos.
Award-winning photography.
Award-winning photography, thank you.
Yeah.
And then Andrew AB Weddings for all your wedding needs. But it's really interesting sort of seeing threads and sort of because you follow people for photography for a certain thing, or the people that follow me are looking for my photography. So why do I want to talk to them as such? I don't know. It's trying to find the use of threads in connection to the audience that I built up.
Yeah.
For my photos. To be fair, I mean I haven't given it a proper try anyway. But
well, I had the opposite things. I hardly ever used Instagram. The only times I'd use Instagram is if I had a picture and I wanted to put it on Facebook, but I wanted to have the filters, to make me look better. So, because I'm dead vain. So I'll put it on Instagram with that, thing where it just forwards it straight to Facebook. So that's the only reason I used it. And I didn't have that many followers or anything like that. But I've got on Threads. I've got a fraction of the followers that I had on Twitter, but I love it. It's just so much nicer. It's just like there's not so many trolls. If someone does start giving you shit, you can block them very easily. And and when I go on it, I see what my mates are putting up there. And one of the things that I had with issues that I have with Facebook, and you know this because you're mates with me on Facebook, is if I put something political up, oh my god, like I end up losing friends. Like lifelong friendships are just dashed because I put something on Facebook that someone disagree with. Whereas Twitter was more kind of like you could have that debate because it wasn't necessarily my friends and family debating with me. So I kind of like Threads as something in between that, where it is people that I know, perhaps not in real life, but people that I follow for political commentary and things like that, that I can have a debate with without falling out with them. And I think that makes it the format's sort of conducive to that as well.
No, you can't. Can't have debate, sensible debate that point. That's it. Never speaking to you again. Bye.
If that's what you're saying, then I agree with you. You bastard. Yeah. I love that Sunak gets forcibly called snake by AutoCabbage or autocorrect, which is quite fun. But yeah, hit the like button, says Joanne. Yes, please do that. So finally, the other topic I wanted to bring up this week with you was something that I don't know how much you want to talk about your situation that you've found yourself in with this, but incapacity benefit. So the government want to make sure that the million people who are on incapacity benefit, work. And the way that this was reported in the Daily Heil this week was absolutely disgusting. It talked about people with disabilities and mental health problems languishing on benefits. And I just want to know how people languish on 90 quid a week. Like, how does that work?
No, it's like so the way that whenever you see that meme come up, someone posts, I don't think it's fair that taxpayers should look after people who aren't paying tax. There's always people always post like really crappy right wing memes about this sort of stuff. I sort of always sort of say, do you want a system where everyone gets what they need in a decent amount of time, get looked after, but it is easy enough that people will cheat it? Or do you want a system where no one gets undeserved money?
Yeah.
But it means that people have to fight for what they need, and often will get declined. And personally, I'm very much an account of like, I don't want a single person who desperately needs money to go into the absolute despair of having to fight a very cruel and uncaring system to earn enough money to barely survive.
Yeah.
Even if that means a few people are, earning 90 quid extra, like as if that's, as if that's a great way of living anyway. But of course, the third option is our best friend, yours and mine, UBI. I mean, is the big, that's for me. Or the other one is UBS, which in some ways I prefer. Do you know that one? It sounds like a bowel disease, but it's UBS is Universal Basic Services, and the idea that in the hierarchy of needs, the basics are taken care of. So you will always have food, you'll always have housing, transport's free. I don't know, transport's free. Nursery, childcare is free, which I think is massively important.
Yeah.
Obviously education and health as they are now, and the idea being that it gives you that sort of sense of it might. I'm not saying that everyone has a luxury house and can eat gourmet food every day. It might be levels of not subsistence, but a basic level that is comfortable, that people can then use as a stepping stone. Because you take out the stress of survival, and people can be so much more productive members of society. I mean,
I so agree with that. And taking out the stress out of life would improve people's mental health.
Yeah,
Like, we have a
absolutely.
mental health crisis at the moment. In the chat, Vendetta's saying, I worked for decades now. I'm in a position where I'm on benefits due to depression. It's my fucking money. And Vendetta, you're right. It is your money, but it's all of our money that we give into a system when we can to help people who can't. It's a
Yeah,
safety net for everyone in society. And the idea that we shouldn't give any money because someone might take a bit more than they should. I always think back to this must have been 10, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. But there was a front page, I'm sure it was on the Mail, and it was about this woman who was a welfare queen who was getting £14,000 a year off the taxpayer for her 7 children. And I'm like, okay, that seems like a reasonable amount to look after 7 children. If someone paid me £14,000 a year to look after 7 children, I would go, oh, can I have a bit more? Do you know what I mean? And meanwhile, on the 5th column of the front page, just in little tiny letters down the side, there was a story about Gary Barlow of Take That fame owing the taxman over £20 million. And it was like, this front cover, it had like, follow the story on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 about this welfare queen. How dare she take so much money from the taxpayer? And I'm just like, hang on. Whoa. The amount that even if she continued to pump out babies for every year for the next 1,000 years, she wouldn't cost the taxpayer as much as Gary Barlow not paying his taxes. And yet we sort of make it like a virtue to someone to avoid taxes. We're like, oh yeah, well, you're clever. When Trump was asked why he didn't pay any tax, he said, because I'm smart. He's not. But,
I mean, I think, of all the things, one of the biggest shifts that we can make, and bear in mind, the thing that you talk about, how you've mentioned this before, the idea that, in the 80s, public opinion on homosexuality was pretty anti-homosexuality, and in 20 years, it turned around to being everyone realizing that it is a positive thing. So public opinion can shift. It is possible to have big shifts in public opinion. The biggest shift, the best shift that we could possibly have is a shift of making it an award of who can pay the most tax. Like, celebrate them. Oh my God, you paid 50 million. Elon Musk, he wins this year because you paid 100 million in tax. Great, let's have a parade for you. Celebrate.
And show what the money's spent on as well.
Look how many people you've helped.
And then you could like show... You have a nice little video showing like little vignettes of people's lives that have been improved by the fact that Elon Musk paid his freaking tax.
Yeah, but I mean, even on a smaller level, not make it like a kind of secretive thing, but like kind of go, as a freelancer, it was a huge, wonderful moment for me when I had to pay tax, because I was like, I've done it. I finally made it. I'm making enough money that I'm giving back in, as opposed to kind of, and all the rest. And I'm very aware that I'm very lucky to be in that situation. But if we started celebrating it, maybe that would help.
Helen Wilkes there, £2 super chat. Thank you very much, Helen. Think big. If you take 1 million, you can keep it. Well, actually, that's true in the UK. If you win the lottery, if you win 1 million on the lottery in the UK, you get to keep all that money because that's a winning, right? If you win it in America, I think they take 40%. Like the tax man says, no, I'll have 40% of that.
Wow.
And America thinks that it has like the lowest taxes, and that's why it doesn't have any services. That's why all the infrastructure's crumbling apart. It's like you actually pay just as much tax as any other country. It's just all funneled into the back pockets of the military industrial complex, Monsanto, British American Tobacco, Philip Morris, all the good guys, the merchants of death.
But then the interesting thing about that is that it's the big powerful guys that are protected from paying tax. And actually, if you win 100 million, you are potentially one of those that you could turn into one of the big guys, but they're taxing you before you are. So these protections will be in place once you've got the money, but you're not going to see that money taken tax upon it.
Just to go back to electric car batteries, JD's saying electric car batteries are a possible storage solution. Intelligent charging, allowing grid to manage charge stroke discharge of batteries, could allow for a rebalancing of demand. Full charge deadline could be added. So yeah, this is the idea that you charge your car up, through solar panels. I mean, one of the things that drives me mad, one of the many things that drives me mad about the Tory party, Tory government that's been in charge for the last 13 years, not making it mandatory for all new builds to have solar panels on the roofs is just a disgrace. Because if you do that when you actually build the building, you can integrate it seamlessly into the design, into the wiring, everything else. Otherwise, you are trying to basically retrofit any given building to have this commodity on it. But the idea is you charge up your car during the day, and then anything left over that can be discharged from the battery for the grid. But also, if you have solar panels and you have batteries, what you can do, wink wink, is at the moment you can actually fill those batteries up and then sell them back. I think Octopus Energy does this. You can sell them back to the energy supplier at a slightly higher rate than you pay for it. If so, you don't. Well, obviously you're getting them through solar panels, but you're being able to sell it back to the grid means that some people's energy bill could go very, very low as a result of that. And Dave W says, I liked your idea of roofing car parks with solar panels. That was not my idea. That was someone else's idea, but I think it's a good one. As is having a electric cable, suspended cable above the inside lane on a motorway that vehicles like buses and lorries can hook up to as they go along, so they can charge as they drive. Not my idea, but it's taking infrastructure that exists already and going, how can we make this more energy efficient? And that would mean that lorries would turn up at their depot with nearly fully charged.
You can also have bike lanes, solar panel covered bike lanes down middle of the roads as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking outside the window today, and it's so sunny and so bright, and there's a bit of me, that is just thinking, it's my FOMO. It's my fear. We're missing out on all this energy. Look, the sun's giving us all this energy, and we're not using it. And someone stood up in PMQs this week, AB, and said, sorry, guy on a gigantic wasp just rode past. Stood up and said, it went on about solar panels, solar farms, and how disgraceful it was. And it took me back to when Liz Truss said the most depressing sight in the UK, not our crumbling schools, not our homeless veterans, not children going hungry because the government won't feed them. No. The most depressing, not people losing their homes and being made destitute by interest rate rises. No. It was solar farms. She said that was the most depressing thing that she's ever seen. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, seriously, a field full of solar panels, how depressing. And I'm thinking, what is it with these people?
I mean, I love driving past wind farms. Like, it's the same feeling I get when I look at my favorite building in the world is, funnily enough, the Anglican Cathedral in Liverpool. There is something so magnificent about this building. And part of it for me is that it's so well proportioned that you think it is like the size of a normal, or at least I do think of it, it's like the size of a normal church, because it looks like a normal church, and you get closer and it's just like the scale of it is phenomenal. It just really, I don't know, there's something really powerful about that. And I find that with wind farms, like you sort of driving along and it's just this gigantic, wonderful thing. It's just there. It's just absolutely massive. And the scale of them is just, I don't know, they're just absolutely wonderful. And the fact that they are there giving us energy.
Yeah.
Giant, white, futuristic looking cool things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a few in the Mersey estuary. If you go down to another place, the art installation in Crosby, in Crosby. by Anthony Gormley, the same guy who did the Angel of the North. You can see the wind turbines out to sea. But they wanted to put some, I believe, up near Runcorn, near where the Runcorn bridges are now. And there were complaints about it. And I just like Runcorn of all places. This is a place with a chemical chemical depth. What's it called? An old ICI plant. They're just down the river up the river, I should say, from Ellesmere Port, which is a massive oil refinery. And over on our side, we've got Fiddler's Ferry power station, coal-fired power station with these gigantic, great big, ugly concrete chimneys. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. But I don't want a big wind turbine. That would ruin the view. Ruin the view of the power station? I mean, come on. Ruin the view of those concrete cooling towers. It's just bizarre the way people think. But yeah, Christopher Ball saying every new build should have solar panels installed. Yeah, just a standard. And people go, oh, but you can't make all your power from solar. I'm like, yeah, but you can make some of it.
Yeah.
Like the amount of power we're using now in this house, right? So I've got a couple of lights on. One of them is one of those USB things that you plug in. There's not that much power. Got a PC. Kat's in the other room. She's using her laptop, and we've got the fridge on. That's about it. We could run that off solar. We definitely could, because I used to live off solar when I was on Ginger Island, as you well know. When you came to stay for a week, and it just rained every day.
But we still had power, even though it rained. Like every day, I was there for a week.
Yeah.
But then then that's not even touching about the fact on 1 minute ago, but tidal power in the UK, like how
massive.
That alone, like I'm sure you can correct me on this. Someone can correct me. I've definitely heard at one point that tidal power around the UK could power Europe.
Oh yeah, there's so much energy to be tapped there, but it's a case of the technology is not quite there yet, and the reason why the technology is not quite there yet, it's the same reason why we didn't have electric vehicles in the 1990s or the 1890s. It's because the subsidies that the oil and gas and coal companies have enjoyed from governments around the world, not least our own, has been huge compared with the amount of investment via subsidies for new technology like tidal, which in Liverpool, we have one of the largest tidal ranges in the world. I think it goes up to about 10 meters. 10 meters of water in and out twice a freaking day. And it's constant. So it's not something that, there's no wind today, or there's no sun today. You'll always have that. And it'd be a fantastic use of our natural resources as a baseline. But having said that, when we say it could be, yes, but also it could be an ecological disaster if not done properly. Because if you think of things like the fish that are in the water, and the natural flow of sediment and stuff like that can be upset. You look at something like a hydroelectric project and you realise that it does have a lot of environmental damage, even though the energy that it's making is green. Is it worth the amount of damage? But I was looking, just before we go, at situation in America at the moment. They've got this Hurricane Lee that is now barreling down, possibly on the East Coast. You've also got the Great Salt Lake in Salt Lake City. It's apparently drying up. It's going, and the Hoover Dam is at its lowest level it's ever been. It's ridiculously low, and the Hoover Dam, it's got no bloody water in it, and they've got no power for Las Vegas.
There's also, with Las Vegas, there's lakes and stuff like that. They're finding loads of dead bodies that were dumped in.
Yeah.
Because the water level is so low. Like there's all these people, all these, let's say,
mafia killings.
Yeah.
All these bodies coming back to life.
Yeah.
Questionable absence. He says solar PV is not renewable. In 50 years, we'll have a PV pandemic as we try to figure out how to get rid of them without polluting the land and the air. Passive solar heating is renewable. Well, I don't know. I'm going to question questionable there because, as far as I'm aware, solar panels are something like 99.5% recyclable. The aluminium can be recycled, the glass can be recycled, the silicon can be recycled. So I'm not sure that that's actually the case. But I'll look into you. I'll look into you. Hey, I'll look inside you.
Not that
Everyone
kind of
makes you
show.
tick. No, I'll look into that a little bit more because I am interested in the whole sort of green revolution that the government is reluctantly being dragged into, but hopefully that will accelerate under Labour when they
But hopefully
finally
they'll
get
learn
in.
Biden, which I didn't think I would say, but yeah, Biden's
Yeah.
green efforts are amazing.
I hope he absolutely trouses Trump in the next election. I mean, it's by no means
There's no certainty in anything anymore, especially in politics.
Trump's ahead of him in some of the polls, you know.
Yeah, but they're polls that he paid for. Like
And they
they
include
are.
people who do not vote.
But they are. There's the like the poll that Fox News probably maybe it wasn't Fox News. There was a poll that one of his pet channels said that he's in the league. Didn't declare that his super PAC had paid for the polls being put
Cheeky
together.
bugger.
So
Cheeky
there's
bugger.
pinches of salt, but still, yeah, absolutely no resting on laurels at all.
Well, we certainly aren't resting on our laurels here at Labour Social. We'll be back at 9 o'clock for the Labour Social with special guest Super Tansky and others. I don't think Phil's going to be joining us because he's not feeling so well. But AB, thank you so much for doing this, helping me out the last minute there. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone watching this has enjoyed AB's contributions as much as I have. It's nice. It's just having a conversation, shooting the breeze about what's going on at the moment. And
it's a lot calmer than our normal conversations, I have to say. We haven't stormed out or started crying or something. But
yeah, it's much nicer over Zoom because we're not like, you know, in each other's faces. But yeah, thank you so much for helping out, AB, and thank you to everyone watching. Thanks to all your chats and super chats. Really, really appreciate that. Like I say, we'll be back at 9 o'clock tonight for the Labour Social. And until then, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.